The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Welcome back to the Songwriter Show, everyone. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarantos, a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words were always very important to me, and that's why I'm especially thrilled to host this show. I strongly believe that every single story can be brought out in a song. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio and has listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in America. The station is also licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's first guest is Jay Elle. Jay is a New York City-based singer, songwriter, and guitar player. His new EP, Ease Up, is getting great reviews, airplay, and being added to playlists. The first single, Ease Up Into Love, is on 4 charts and has reached number 6 on the country internet chart. Jay Elle is influenced by great songwriters from many different genres, including pop, country, rap, and classical music. Welcome to the show, Jay. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you so much, Saranto. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're, I'm sitting here in Chicago, and all I can think of is I can't tell if summer's going to be over soon, because the other day it was like kind of 70, now it's like 80, and I don't know what you guys are doing in New York, but the weather's kind of playing with us here.
Yeah, we have stayed in the 70s since 4 days ago, just about when the temperature dropped, which was a nice welcome change for us. But we have not gone back up, so who knows? Maybe that's it for us.
Yeah, who knows, right? So you have a very interesting story, Jay. I was kind of looking through your stuff, and tell us a little bit about when did you first start playing? I assume guitar is the first thing you played?
That is correct, yes. I started
when did you start?
I was about 14, and I had a cousin who had a guitar, and I picked up a couple of things from him. He just played by ear. He never had training. And then a bunch of friends in school, played, and so we put a little band together, and I learned a lot from them as well. And eventually I started taking classes and studied classical guitar and tried to learn as many things as I could and listen to all the great guitar players of, the past decades.
So you might be a little biased, but do you think guitar is the best instrument? If someone's going to play one instrument, is that the one you recommend?
Actually, no. I love it. It's great. But I think that piano is really what I should have learned, simply because you can do so much more with both hands playing keys, and guitar is not. It has its unique sounds and its unique strumming capabilities, and it's got a very different place. They don't compete, but in terms of composing, I think that with great piano technique and understanding of music, you can reach out and do things very, very differently. A guitar, I think, is perhaps more limited in that sense, but that's just my take on it. But I love guitars, and you can't play a great blues solo other than with a wailing guitar and a staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
The piano doesn't make it.
Yeah, it's fascinating to. I think you're the first person I ever asked that question, but I personally, I'm a piano, synth, keys kind of guy. But I dabble in guitar. I'm not as great at it as I would like to be, but it's kind of interesting. I never really thought about what you said. When I create, it usually is with the piano, and I can pretend I play guitar, right? Because I just, make it a MIDI file and then put whatever guitar sound I want to it. But I see both sides, and honestly, I wish I was an awesome guitar player too, because I think the riffs and some of you get to the rock vibe, man, you really, and what's funny about that is when you watch these shows now and you see people like Shawn Mendes, then he's playing the piano, you see Justin Bieber. I always wonder, I'm like, I don't think they can really play, but you can learn any song if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and you'll get there with the guitar. I mean, you've got the ears and you've got the musicality and the feel for music, and eventually, this stuff just comes out. But they are very different, and I it's a choice. It's maybe a personality also that drives you to one instrument or the other. I tried violin, and I could never get a sound out of a violin. I tried the saxophone, and I couldn't get anything out of a saxophone. So I'm amazed by how wonderful, some players can play their instruments, whatever that is. And obviously, I can play, guitar and to do what I do, but there's so much to learn. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's true. What's the first tune you ever learned?
Wow, great question. I think it was just one of Eric Clapton songs. I think one from his album that he recorded in Florida. Let me see if I can remember. Can't Find My Way Home, might not be on it. I can't remember. It's one of those.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful guitar playing throughout the entire record. And then he had a live album, EC Was Here. I started looking into all of his work, of course, when I studied guitar. And just some incredible guitar playing throughout these. Further down up the road, one of those. I'm sorry if I mess up the title, but and that's kind of like the Chicago blues. I think that actually the song was written by. I'm so embarrassed I don't remember the name of the guitar player, but the groove is so cool, and it's not easy to just be right on with that kind of swing all the way through the song and be really precise and yet have the feel for it, and it's just brilliant guitar playing.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I'll watch some of these shows like Songland, or I've watched The Voice in the past, and man, there are some super, super talented people out there on instruments, on vocals, and sometimes I'm like put to shame because I'm like, man, but they never go anywhere. And I think, it's a combination. People say it's luck, it's money, it's whatever, but it really is about perseverance. And, that's really all you could do is just try to hone your craft and get better and better. But I don't know how people ever think they're the best guitarist or the best vocalist or songwriter in this business, because you always hear things that you're like, wow, I wish I came up with that. That's the coolest line, or that's the coolest lick.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have the same experience. I mean, everybody that I've met along the way who totally impressed me, just are like, hey, there's so much more to learn, and so many great players. I mean, it's just the way the world is, and I think you're absolutely right. The only thing you can control, in my experience, is your own abilities, and you can try to do the best possible work on yourself to get better at it. The rest, it's a mystery.
Yeah,
I have no answer as to how.
That old adage, right? Fake it till you make it. It's like I can't do that. I just have to be honest with people and upfront, because I think everyone's kind of full of it a little bit too. They pretend that. We've all been inspired, and sometimes I'll read these origin stories, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought that guy buys all his songs from somebody, So it's kind of hilarious to hear some of the stuff they come up with,
Yeah, it's I leave it to others to tell their stories.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, it's hard work, and as you said, you have to stay with it, and who knows what the future will bring. But certainly, if you're into it because you love it, that's about all you can expect. The rest, well, I wish everybody lots of luck. That's for sure.
What's your fondest musical memory in your home?
Oh, wow. Great question. I think that the good thing about my home is that everybody was a music lover. Whether it was like immediate family or extended family, music was always part of every celebration and dancing, and lots and lots of records were passed around, and CDs, and obviously now they've all adopted the latest technology. But that was a great influence because it wasn't limited in terms of the genres. It was very, very expanded, and always lots of music around. So for me, it's like a connection between, a great family atmosphere and always music around it. So I always enjoyed, all the gatherings because there was always music and it was fun.
Yeah, cool. You talked about Eric Clapton. Anyone else that you'd really want to jam with if they were, even as someone who's passed away, anyone you can think of?
Oh, yeah. Well, Franz Liszt, who was a piano player, apparently that guy was really incredible in his days, as in like having people lining up to come in here and play. He would play. They had this thing in these French salons, and where they would hide the performers, the piano player, and Chopin would play his own music, right? And the people in there in the audience didn't know who was playing. And then Franz Liszt would also play Chopin music. And apparently they all thought that Franz Liszt was the composer. They couldn't see who was playing because he played Chopin better than Chopin himself, right? So this guy was just a brilliant piano player. And when you listen to his compositions and his technique, at least played now, of course, but the way he wrote the pieces, it's just mind-boggling how this Franz Liszt played the instrument, and it's just brilliant. And he's got some beautiful pieces, but a lot of it is flashy, extremely flashy. So it would be a great guy to play with. There was a guitar player. I haven't seen much of him lately, Al Di Meola, who did really cool stuff with guitar. Of course, Hendrix had a completely different take that, it's just, you just listen. I wouldn't jam. I would just listen.
Yeah.
And, there are so many others, of course.
Yeah, that's a very humbling thing. Like you said, I try to listen to hit songs, in the car when I'm driving. I'm always analyzing. Sometimes I'll try to pick out the bass, sometimes background melodies, sometimes, just all sorts of different parts. And sometimes I just enjoy it. I just sit there and I try to figure out why it's given me the emotion and the feeling that it is. And I try to learn from all that. And I think that's really important as a songwriter. I think you can't just think you've arrived. And all these greats that you want to jam with or that you listen to, they all have this mystique about them, and we got to try to figure out why so we can replicate it. Because there's a reason that you respect them, you love them. And I think as you get into this business and you get better as a songwriter, to me, I love analyzing why people did what. And, actually today I was reading about, I'm a Sucker for You. I was looking at that deconstructed and, talking about the whistling melodies that they set you up in verse 1 and chorus, and they bring it back. And it's just like, oh, yeah, that is kind of subtle, but that's really cool. And I think that's the way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
because
sure.
You mentioned how you analyze and listen and really look into how things are put together, but you also said that you can step back and enjoy that, right? And do you find that difficult? That you find difficult to switch from the analytical to the more enjoying, feeling what you're listening?
Sometimes, and I'll be honest, this is my 6th year doing it. When I first started, I've been writing lyrics my whole life, and music was my huge weakness. And, I'd use loops, I would hire session guitarists and do things like that. And I met at the Taxi Conference this guy, Jay Josephs. And, I'd been reading anything I could get my hands on, watching videos, but I started taking songwriter lessons with Jay, and he essentially taught me how to play the piano. This is many years ago now. And there's so many elements that go into it that I never had a clue. And when you're a novice, I would hear a song, I couldn't pick out anything. But I think by always trying to get better and better, and I'll give you another example that he taught me is I'd be like, oh, I'm inspired. I wrote the song. I love you. Yes, I do. Wow, that's great, isn't it? And he taught me that, there's the muse, and then afterwards there's the editing. I never used to edit anything. And editing is really what, when you start trying to take your song to that other level, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, the verse and the chorus, those rhyme schemes are the same. They shouldn't be the same. I didn't know that. And the thing I think people need to realize is some people are natively curious. Some people are very creative. Some people have great voices. But there's an art to this. And one of the things that I've tried to do, now that I've learned a lot from him and I'm still learning, is I still read everything. I still watch videos. Because there's many ways to do the same thing, right? And I think if you look at hit songs, yeah, there's different flavors of the month. And if you're trying to replicate what's already hot, you're going to miss the trend. But I try to figure out why people like that. In the old days, I used to say, I just don't have the money. I'm not spending $1 million to get my song out there. But I've really tried to flip it and try to figure out why is my music not good enough that the fans aren't making this go viral? I put it on me, and I think that's really important for songwriters to do, because how many times have you heard people say, well, this is what I want to do, and they just don't get me?
Well, of course, that's the easy way out, right? And I've heard that, and that's you can choose that path if you want to. This DJ a while back, played when it was early on. I had like some new tracks, and I was starting out, and he goes to me, he says, I don't understand. It's good, but I don't understand why it's that good, but it's not better. And I'm like, what do you mean? If it's good, you don't understand why it's not better. So I pondered that for a long time. Yeah. But it plays right into what you just said. Take ownership, take responsibility. You can possibly get to the place where you have that $1 million, or nowadays more like to blast out your music and pay a lot of money out there to present your music to as many people as you can possibly get to. But if they don't buy it, if they don't want it, it doesn't matter how much you spend. It really doesn't matter. If every single time record companies would release, an album or a CD or just, whatever, a song, a single, the simple fact that they can get it to so many people or get it on the radio, if it was that easy, that people would just buy what they hear, it would be so easy for them. They wouldn't have the 1% success rate. Everything they put out would be a success. And you're absolutely correct. You have to take responsibility. If the fans are not, buying it, they're not getting it, they don't want it, that's the way it is. And hey, what are you going to do? Just get better, hopefully.
Yeah. And listen,
I hope I'll get better.
Yeah. And your competition now is, you look at all these hit songs, they all have 2 to 10 songwriters that are all at the top of their field. This is your competition. And if you want to, unless you find a niche and you just, or unless you kind of get to a point, I've kind of gotten to a point in my life where I spend $0 marketing, and I've been doing that. This is my 2nd year now. So if I get 10 likes or I get 2 likes or 100, it's all legit now. And I don't want to say legit. It's not bought, because now I get marketing works, but I just kind of decided, at this point in my life, that's really not for me. That's not something that I've had almost 500,000 views on YouTube videos. And I get that marketing works, whether you're appealing to your fans or other fans, but I want people to just appreciate the music. And what I've done the last couple of years, I've just focused on the music and myself and getting better. I'm not ready for the prime time. And I think people sometimes spend money on promoters or getting it on the radio, and it's not ready to be on the radio.
It's a great way to look at it, because I'm not in a position where I can move the needle. I don't have the money. I'm an independent artist. I'm not backed by a record company. I can't compete at that level. So I have to go with the flow, where things happen when they happen, and be thankful for the attention that you're giving me tonight. And of course, a blog review or whatever happens. It's just the way it is. And perhaps one day, that little brush fire turns into something else. Not that I would want to see forest fires around the globe at all, but as an image. But certainly, you can't guarantee success even when you have the marketing machine and the money to back it. There are countless examples of music that people just will ignore it, even though they have been promoted in the most beautiful way, in the most expensive ways by the people who have the means to do it. If it was that simple, if it was that easy, we couldn't even compete. There would be no new artists, or very few, because the field would be constantly dominated by people who are established and who have the means to promote their music. I think in that sense, audiences really drive that, and perhaps more so now than ever, because playlists are put together by, of course, major playlists are put together by certain folks who work in collaborations with record companies and so on and so forth. But, the people out there are telling us what they like, and, that's the way it is.
Yeah. One of the listeners, Tim, commented that is a way to think about things. And, we're touching a little bit tonight on things we haven't necessarily talked about on the show before, but, I think it's definitely important, not that we don't want to come off as bitter, but, just pragmatists, realists. And I think, again, we do this because we love doing it. Everyone's got their own reasons. And at the end of the day, sure, everyone wants their song to be on the next Marvel movie. They want to hear their song on the radio. But I think there's something to be said about when I first started, I was disappointed my first song didn't go viral. Then my second song didn't go viral. And, you're really working hard. You really want it to happen. But there's something to be said at this point, for me especially, about just being complacent and just trying to get better and put out the best music I can. And I almost feel sorry for some of these big stars that, they get to the top and then there's only one place to go. And I don't want to name any names, but they're trying really hard. They're doing what got them there, but it's just not clicking. People are kind of tired of their act, of their songs. Yeah. And, I'm sure it bothers them. I could tell it bothers them, but...
I can't speak from experience. I haven't enjoyed that kind of success. So all I could say is that it must feel great. It certainly feels good, even if one person tells me, that song that you wrote is just great. I listen to it and it makes me feel good when I listen to it. So to me, that's success. If there are more than one person eventually, great. And for me, it's like, hey, I remember when I first started listening to music, and these great songs would give me that energy. And the one song that gets you like so confident that you can start talking to that girl, right, or that person that you like.
Sure.
And then that gives you the like that's full blown energy that makes you like run a little faster or do something that you were like kind of scared to do, and you feel like, wow, I can do this. And you're listening to like, I don't know, AC/DC, like Back in Black or something, whatever you like, or even like, I don't know, like a Drake song with lyrics that make you go like, hey, yeah, that's me. I've experienced that. To me, that's the value, the great gift of a song, and reproducing that. Not because eventually maybe it turns into gold in terms of cash. Great, hey, I'd love to be able to have more money to make more music. But the point is that if I can pass that on, if I can pass that bit of energy that makes a person somewhere, face the world with that much more confidence, that much more, belief in themselves, I may never know it happened. I may never run into that person. I may, maybe one day be in a place where, a few hundred folks are there because they feel that way. But certainly, to me, that's the great gift of a song. And writing those, I hope I get to write a few that, pass on that kind of energy. But it's a challenge. It's a tough job. I mean, I work at it, and I hope I get to have, more songs that are just, great for people to listen to.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's take a little break here now to listen to your song Ease Up, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, Jay Elle?
Yeah, that's perfect. Great.
All right. Let's hear your song now, Ease Up. Here we go.
Ease up into love. Ease up into love. Everyone has a way. I'd be the first to say, take a chance, dare to try. Don't let love pass you by. But if you're still alone, pushing the grindstone, now it's time to change your ways and get out of the maze. I know it's easier said than done. Ease up, ease up, ease up into love. Ease up into love. Don't try to party chills, that's just the way love goes. We all have got to wait. Don't make the same mistake. Slow down and take a break. One day you'll see it will be your time to love. Time to love. Your time to love. Time to love. Love. We all have got to wait. Just slow down and take a break. Don't go on, making that same mistake. Ease up into love. Ease up into love. Ease up into love. Don't try so hard, it shows. That's just the way love goes. Slow down and take a break. Don't make the same mistake. Ease up, ease up, ease up into love. Ease up into love. Ease up into love. Ease up into love.
very cool, Jay.
Thanks. Thank you.
I love your melodies. Love the sound of your voice, man. It's almost soulful. But tell me a little bit about that song. What inspired it? How'd you get to that place?
Yeah, great question. I started out with this guitar theme that usually is how I start a song, something that grabs my attention as I play throughout the course of the day. And the whole Ease Up EP is for me a way to pass on a positive view of the world, sort of against the, what I see as the clickbait negative headlines that you find often, certainly on news websites and in conversations, where it's easy to push people's buttons and get them excited. And, it has its value for marketers, because the more excited we are, the more in an emotional state we are, the more likely we are to make purchases. So that aside, I wanted a message and messages that were like positive and hopeful and, looking forward to the future as, things can happen and will happen, and take it easy and relax and things will get better. And I certainly wanted that in that song regarding love and having a, great relationship if you don't have one yet, or making things even better if you are in a great relationship, so that you have a positive look on things and sort of like, push away some of the negativity that at least I see around me in, online or, on TV or certainly out there in the world. So it's a positive feeling that I wanted to pass on to people.
Yeah, I get that, especially in New York, right?
Yeah, there's everything.
There might be a little negativity out in the air there.
I mean, the good thing about New York, when you look at it from a very to me, for me, a neutral point of view. I mean, you have practically every single group, country, people represented in the neighborhoods, right? I mean, there's just like 7-8 million people in at least, the city itself. And you just have everybody, you'll find every person from everywhere around the world, like different religions, different politics, different background, different languages. And it's a peaceful place. I mean, sure, it's got crimes and it's got issues, but when you think about where other places, in other places in the world where there aren't that many people brought together from different backgrounds, things can flare up pretty badly, as we can see. But New York has that going for it, and as do many cities in the world. But certainly, people they just want peace, right? They want to live a full life. They want their children to be at peace, and I find that really positive. Even though, of course, there is, nice arguments and conversations and opinions of all kinds floating around, and that's okay. As long as it stays in a verbal, debate mode and doesn't turn into violence, I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm Greek, so they're definitely in the family and friends when people have conversations. I'm pretty chill, but some people get really into it, and you're right. They got to relax, and it's okay to talk, but let's keep it polite.
Exactly, and it's resolved eventually. At least that's my hope, and I take on it.
So we got a couple more minutes here. Tell us a little bit about where can people buy your music? What's your website?
Great, thank you. The website is Jay Elle, JAYELLE 2222.com, and the music is on all the platforms and music services, from Spotify to Amazon to Apple, you name it, it's out there. So thank you for letting me say that. And of course, on the website, you can send me an email and you can get in touch if you have questions. And you'll find everything that I've done so far out there in the world. And thank you for listening.
Wonderful. Now, a couple more questions as we wind down here. What what's the one thing in New York that you think everyone has to do? I mean, I've been there several times, but for someone who's never been there, what would you recommend?
That is a fantastic question. I certainly visited all the tourist places. My favorite was taking a boat around the island, because especially if you most likely would do that in the summer, it's cool. You're on a boat. It's nice, and you're on the water, and you can really see everything. And of course, nightlife. Definitely hang out around Times Square, and then take a cab or the subway to the Village and go and hear some live music on Bleeckers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely gotta listen to some live music in New York. Hello?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you there. What is the weirdest compliment you've ever gotten from a fan?
Oh, wow. I don't know. That's a great question. I couldn't say.
How about the coolest compliment? Something that just made your year.
Well, you did give me a few, so thank you for those. I have to say, I have so much work to do in my mind, certainly, to get to be a better writer, a better singer, a better player, that every time someone is moved by the music in any way, and the voice, the playing, it's great right there. And I obviously feel humbled by it, and I'm like, wow, wait till I get better. And hopefully I will, but it is, let's put it this way. I wasn't born with, the gifts that some people have, and it's obvious. I mean, you see, folks, teenagers, you see who have this incredible voice, or, I have to work at it. Let's put it this way. Everything is work, but I love it, and I chose it. So, that's the way it is. So I really appreciate all the compliments.
And you know what? I got to be honest. I used to think that people are born with it, and people are definitely born with height. They're born with an innate ability to, but I got to be honest. I think everything can be learned. And, I read a couple interesting books, The Talent Code and all these different things about, and when you look at these prodigies, you know what? Well, guess what? Their dad was in that field, and their dad stressed that, and, or you have like Tiger Woods' dad and what he had him do as a kid. And I really don't think, I look at Billie Eilish, and I was reading about her history too. I had no idea her parents were like famous actors that, so I think everyone has a story. And I think the one thing I do think as kids can naturally sing. They naturally pretty much know pitch and melody, most of them. And I think it's something as adults that you kind of forget about, or you kind of, how many people do you know they're like, oh, my voice sucks, I'm just not going to sing. But I think there's more to it. And I think the people that truly get somewhere, they've been encouraged. They've been, they've taken lessons. There's a lot to that. And I think you should not be hard on yourself, because I think it is hard work for everybody. Even the people that look like they're talented, they didn't just get there by mistake. They've put in a lot of hard work.
Oh, you're absolutely correct in that sense. Because I've got the chance to work and meet some incredibly talented folks here in New York, and they work at it. And again, you might have some ease in doing certain things that may be coming. And I think you're right about the nurturing. The nurturing is incredibly important. But if you don't take care of your gifts, whatever you have to start with or that you develop over time, it will run away from you quickly. And,
absolutely.
I've just had a conversation with this great piano player who plays with a Manhattan Transfer. And, he just practices 4 or 5 hours every day. And he's like, look, if I skip this stuff really goes away. And you just have to be respectful of whatever you might have, or certainly the drive and energy you have, when you start, and that's, you're not so self-conscious. When you start learning how to listen, and as you were mentioning before, analyzing things and how things are done, and you start realizing that, your work may not be as thought out or edited as other people's work is, then you start going oh, okay. But yeah, nurturing is incredibly important, and Mozart was well nurtured, and certainly it's very, very difficult to tell, the difference. But, some people start a little ahead, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's, that's just the way it is. But it doesn't mean that, we can't learn.
Yeah. Now, Jay, before we let you go here, some of the fans are asking for your website again. Can you repeat your website one more time for me?
Yeah, sure. Please? Thank you. It's JayElle2222.com. JayElle2222.com. And I come up pretty quickly on Google. If you punch in Jay Elle singer, songwriter.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay,
there's a couple of other JLs out there, but we don't look anything alike, so it's cool.
All right, Jay. I want to thank you for being on the show, and glad to have you on again anytime, man. You have a wonderful night, and I wish you nothing but the best.
You too, and we'll be talking soon. And keep up the good work. You have some great music yourself.
Thank you, Jay Elle. All right.
Welcome.
So that was Jay Elle. In signing off on the show, before I have you listen to my song, again, I want to thank you for listening every single Tuesday night. If you know anyone or you yourself are a songwriter and you wish to be on the show, please feel free to contact me. I hope your own unique story gets heard around the world. My name is Sarantos. Please join me here every Tuesday night to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And now I'm going to leave you tonight with one of my songs that was called Bankruptcy. Now, you might think bankruptcy is a weird song to write about. It's a legal term, basically for when a person can't repay their debts. They file a petition with their court, their assets are evaluated, they might be used to repay a portion of their debt, but all bankruptcy filings basically help a person forgive debt or make a plan to repay debts over time. It's not simple, and it's not a cure-all. And take it from me, I've been there myself. It's hell. It's embarrassing. My story began after the person managing my online store embezzled over $1 million from me back in 2008. I trusted the bank and borrowed more money with the promise I'd get the amount I really needed a few months later to get over the hump. They, of course, took any collateral I had. I paid credit cards and then went back for more, and of course they changed their minds and said no, even though I did absolutely everything they asked. So I was trapped in this spiral. I struggled very much. I owed money to the bank, to my family, and the tide kept rising. This used to be a solid business, had great credit and stellar P&L statements for many years, but was now in crisis. With nobody willing to lend me more money, no funds to buy inventory, pay employees, or advertise, this business came to a screeching halt. I honestly tried. I fought for almost a year trying to juggle the bank debt, the inventory, the salary of the employees, the credit cards, the mortgage payment. I refused to file personal bankruptcy for over a year. My dad taught me to just work harder, but this hamster wheel was something I just couldn't outrun. So eventually, as the walls continued to close around me with no other option, I finally took everyone's advice and filed for personal bankruptcy and closed my companies. It took a while to process. There were many sleepless nights, and I was very ashamed, and it was tough. Next year, in a few months, the 10 years will officially be over, and the worst decade of my life, actually probably about 12 years, will finally be a memory I can let go of. So this song was very cathartic for me, and if you're in trouble, again, I put it out there for everybody. I hope you guys have a great night, and here's my song, Bankruptcy. See you next Tuesday night.
Tell you my story before it tells itself. There were many days I wanted to hurt myself, along with loneliness. happiness trapped inside my shell. Didn't wanna tell anybody I was stuck in hell. I was just so hurt and ashamed, lost in the shadows, needing some kind of solution. Pure state of confusion. The world forgot my name, and I didn't wanna feel the sad truth. Oh, they all knew, they all knew, they all knew. Thunder's loud when it runs across the sky. It's scary but never lasts the night. Nothing is forever. Stand up and fight. Move to the light. There's no reason to hide. Bankruptcy's not fun, but life goes on just like it should. It's only bankruptcy. No matter how bad it may be down there, it's almost gone. Forget your bankruptcy. If you carry the weight of mistakes with you, you're more likely to repeat them till you're through. Crumpled on the couch, lost in a mood. Bad news follows bad news, it's nothing new. Just move on with your life, don't be blue. Even mistakes move life forward. Let fear go. As a kid, things were easy, cause you know what? When you fell, you always got back up, back up, back up. Thunder's loud when it runs across the sky. It's scary but never lasts the night. Nothing is forever. Stand up and fight. Move to the light. There's no reason to hide. Bankruptcy's not fun, but life goes on just like it should. It's only bankruptcy. No matter how bad it may be down there, it's almost gone. Forget your bankruptcy. It even happened to me. 10 years of misery, but I got by, and so will you. Bankruptcy's not fun, but life goes on just like it should. It's only bankruptcy. No matter how bad it may be down there, it's almost gone. Forget your bankruptcy. I said bankruptcy's not fun, but life goes on just like it should. It's only bankruptcy. No matter how bad it may be down there, it's almost gone. Forget your bankruptcy. Just forget it.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.